And what did you say at halftime about defense specifically?
Well, you know, they shot 67% and they made 8 threes. And it's not the first time they've had performances like this. I mean, they went on a 27-2 run at Monmouth. They were beating Northwestern at halftime. They're up 20 against DePaul on the road. Ended up winning that game. So they do this all the time. Very explosive offensive team. We did not get up into their space like we had hoped, like we had prepared for, whether it's a ball screen or not. You got to be up in their space, especially on Coit. I mean, he had 34 against DePaul. He's a really good player. So in the second half, we took care of business in that area. We got up, we're in their space, we created some misses. They shot 29%, and then you can get your running game going.
How important was the assist to turnovers tonight? I mean, they had 21 turnovers, but you guys only had 7, but also 23 assists as well.
Yeah, that's how we play. I mean, I'm not surprised. We need to be there every night. I mean, I would have thought we would have had more on 42 baskets. But the bottom line is we share it. We had 6 guys in doubles, and 1 guy with 9, and 1 guy with 8. So easily could have been 8 guys. But that's what makes us hard to guard.
Well, spreading that wealth in terms of scoring, and I know we've kind of talked about it before. Is that sort of a, I don't know if a goal for you guys to kind of spread?
Well, I think it's indicative of who this team is. We got a lot of different ways we can go. You know, like for example, you know, we were struggling a little bit offensively, and then Price comes in and it's 2 threes. You know, and it's always somebody else. You know, Lasante Bone was terrific. He had 15. You know, Josh Dix in the second half was great. You know, so when we go to the bench, we're not losing a lot. You know, you're a little bit of experience maybe, but those guys come in and they compete and they score and they defend. Josh and DeSante are really good defenders.
It seems like Ben and Owen kind of become anchors for you guys, but I guess losing Chris and Phillip in the, you know, after the last season, like how do you kind of compartmentalize that as a coach, knowing how much you have to replace there?
Well, I mean, Phillip was special. I mean, he's 25 years old. He'd been around, the toughest guy on any block. Chris, incredibly talented. Took a lot of the defensive attention of the other team. And then, you know, you put Connor in there with those 2 guys, and that was as good a front line as we had in our league. But we knew how good Freeman was, and we knew how good Cricky was. Cricky's not a freshman. So, you know, I'm not surprised and sort of expected those guys to play the way they're playing. I mean, it's hard to replace a first-round pick, but you know, Ben gets 20 and 7, and it's kind of, you know, I guess it's weird to say it's quiet, but it's kind of a quiet 20. He never stops working.
What did you feel like was the difference in the second half? Transition defense, half-court defense?
It was half-court defense that led to transition offense.
Do you feel like your team is maybe more ready for this Big Ten play that begins very soon?
Well, I think so. I certainly hope so. I mean, we had a difficult non-conference schedule when you think about, you know, road game in the Big East Challenge, a road game with Iowa State, Oklahoma and Seton Hall and San Diego, 2 really tough league opponents. And then I feel like we've been challenged by this team, Northern Illinois and North Florida, Arkansas State, UMBC. I mean, those are well-coached teams with veteran guys, a lot of transfers. So, you know, certainly that was a thought process to prepare our team for the next 18.
Not necessarily asking whether Ben and Owen, you know, are better than Chris and Phillip, but how do those 2 guys' skill sets kind of compare to last season? Those 2 guys.
Well, they're different, but I think equally effective in what they do. You know, you're talking about 2 old guys, and now you're talking about a freshman and an old guy. But these 2 guys can really score. They're athletic, they're smart, they're tough, very similar to those other 2 guys.
You already mentioned. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, you go ahead, please.
You already mentioned Josh Dix and DeSante Bone. Just talk about how important they were off the bench tonight. You know, in a close game early, but they were able to provide sparks off the bench.
Yeah, both of them. You know, DeSante in the first half in particular was really aggressive, and Josh is always rock solid. I mean, he didn't score as much in the first half he did in the second, but those two guys are really good together. They both can play the point. They both can play the wing, and they're both really smart and tough.
We keep talking about Freeman and his acceleration, but tonight, 5 offensive rebounds, 4 steals. These don't seem like very normal numbers for a freshman center.
No, and yeah, but I honestly think, Mike, if you'd been at practice in June and watched practice every day, you wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you could see it's coming. It's not like, you know, he started slow and he was behind and he couldn't figure stuff out and it was going to be a learning curve. There's none of that. He jumped right in, ready to go. The only thing, I think I said this before, the only thing that set him back a little bit, we had a couple minor injuries. He tweaked his ankle, stuff like that, and get a little plantar fascia problem. But when he was healthy, from minute 1, he's one of our best players.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, guys.